Imagine this. You are walking through a vast, bustling city at twilight. Skyscrapers loom like colossi against the dying sun, their windows aglow, each reflecting millions of lives, ambitions, and droplet-sized dreams. The streets are an intricate web of human desire, and it seems that every face around you is a mirror, reflecting a hunger for something intangible and elusive. You pause in the midst of this rush, a river of human endeavor flowing ceaselessly, and feel an almost cosmic tug, a yearning to belong, to be validated, to be approved. In this elaborate theater of existence, consider the paradox of approval. The moment you receive it, isn't there a swift, almost imperceptible shift? A fleeting satisfaction soon overshadowed by an insatiable craving for more, like a thirsty wanderer in an endless desert always envisioning a mirage ahead. Why does the accolade, the applause, or the gentle nod of acceptance lose its power almost as soon as it is offered? You feel the tension of this acknowledgement as you stand there amidst the throng. Why does the very thing we crave with such intensity, the validation of others, leave us feeling hollow when it is finally in our grasp? Are we seeking approval not just from individuals, but from something much larger, something boundless and undefined? Does it not seem that the more public the acclaim, the deeper the private void it attempts to fill? There is an unsettling quiet between these thoughts, a silence filling the spaces. Between rhythmic heartbeats, you cast your gaze skyward, searching among the constellations for clarity, or perhaps permission to abandon this quest for approval. Could it be that this pursuit, this race to secure others' affirmation, is a lifelong cavern, one we dig deeper each time we measure our worth through borrowed eyes, yet never unearth the truths that lie within? Consider this. If approval is the currency of worth in our society, then what happens when we are bankrupt of this personal treasure? Does the essence of who we are dissolve or become enriched beyond the veneer of public perception? In seeking the nod of assent, do we sacrifice the authenticity of our own voice, trading our unique cadence for an echo of what others deem valuable? Ask yourself this haunting question. What remains of you, your hopes, your fears, your identity, when devoid of external validation? Where does the self draw its strength if not from the gaze of others? Like a lone tree standing against the fervent winds, bending but not breaking, can you find resilience in isolation? As the night deepens, the city lights glint like diamonds on a velvet cape, each light a reminder of individual stories and shared destinies. Yet, in your solitude amidst the masses, the reflections you once sought now seem distant, irrelevant even. You realize the force of this tether to approval, a force so powerful yet so often disguised as a simple human need. As you turn away from the crowd, a sense of urgency grips you. The truth seems dangerously close, like the forgotten final line of a poem. What if the pursuit of approval is not simply a personal struggle, but a universal battleground where human identity is both forged and fractured? And so, with this question lingering, you walk further into the night, pulled by an unseen thread toward deeper truths yet unrevealed. The paradox of approval has set the stage, the players are in motion, and now, the journey into understanding this ancient, entwining need begins to unfold. What will you discover beyond the horizon of others' eyes? The answer lies in daring to venture beyond the first step. As you wander through the maze of personal reflection, the question now stands before you like an imposing labyrinth, begging to be explored. It's as if you find yourself at the edge of an ancient forest, each tree a silent guardian of secrets long obscured. What really lies at the heart of our fixation with approval? To peel back the layers, we must first delve into the chronicles of human nature and philosophy, tracing paths laid by minds like Carl Jung, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Viktor Frankl. Imagine you're traversing the vast corridors of your mind, akin to an explorer venturing into forgotten ruins, where every corner whispers of the past. The craving for approval, it seems, is etched into the very fabric of our psyche. Jung spoke often of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of latent memories shared by all humanity. Could it be that our longing for approval is an inherited narrative, deeply embedded within our collective soul? Approval, then, becomes a social mirror, a reflection we seek to validate our sense of self. It is, in essence, a tacit agreement between the individual and society on who we are and who we should be. In Man and His Symbols, Jung suggests that the journey to self-realization requires an understanding of these external archetypes that, whilst shaping us, can obscure our true selves. As Sartre once posited, existence precedes essence. Our identity isn't a preordained script, but a continuous act of creation and interpretation. Yet, our unending quest for approval can turn this fluidity into a prison of expectations, where every action is a bid for affirmation rather than an authentic expression of self. Herein lies an existential conflict, living freely in authenticity versus living for the image that garners others' affirmation. From the philosophical, let's voyage to the scientific, a contrast that highlights the complex tapestry of the human mind. Modern psychology offers insights through studies on attachment theory and the development of the social self. As infants, we are introduced to validation through the approval of caregivers, which sets a precedent for how approval becomes a foundational pillar of self-esteem. Like seedlings reaching for the sun, we learn to associate worthiness with the warmth of external validation. Karen Horney, the neo-Freudian psychologist, spoke about the tyranny of the should. This internalized set of expectations pushes us toward an idealized version of ourselves, one forged by the expectations of family, culture, or society at large. However, this chase turns increasingly insidious as we come to measure our value not by an inherent sense of self, but by the fluctuating standards of others' perceptions. Furthermore, the advent of social media has amplified this penchant for approval to unprecedented levels. Neuroscience now shows how the dopamine rush from likes and shares embeds the pursuit of approval within our neural pathways, turning us into modern-day Pavlovian subjects craving that next virtual nod. It's an echo chamber that reinforces the necessity of approval until it becomes both habitual and detrimental. Arthur Schopenhauer contended that the human condition is marked by insatiable will, a cycle of endless desires. In his view, the persistent quest for approval feeds into this cycle, promising fulfillment but delivering fleeting satisfaction that soon morphs into the next unquenched yearning. The tragedy, our lives driven not by intrinsic fulfillment, but by perennial comparisons and conditional happiness. As the moon rises over this internal exploration, it casts its pallid light on a compelling realization: our relentless need for approval might be rooted in the fundamental fear of being unseen, unheard, unrecognized. To be a ghost among the living is perhaps a terror greater than mortality itself, a shadow that beckons us into the dance of approval, never allowing us to rest within our skin. It is, therefore, a deep-seated fear of obscurity and insignificance that fuels this quest. This is not merely an ailment of our modern world, but a human condition, as ancient as civilization itself. Viktor Frankl, in his exploration of meaning, emphasized the necessity of looking beyond the self. The pain of insignificance can only be transformed into fulfillment when the search moves from external validation to internal purpose and meaning. You pause now in contemplation, as this journey into the psyche and philosophy echoes with the unspoken realization that confronts every seeker of truth. The great irony lies in the fact that to find genuine approval and self-worth, one must turn inward, challenging the very foundations that society, and perhaps even the self, has erected. Could it be that the greatest approval we're searching for is our own? With the emotional weight of these revelations pressing in, you push forward, aware of deeper truths that await. You hold these philosophical and psychological musings delicately, as one might a fragile relic from a time long past, aware nonetheless of their potency. Wondering now, haven't we merely scratched the surface of a profound phenomenon that we have yet to fully comprehend? The unseen consequences of our quest for approval linger on the horizon, casting shadows into the realms of possibility. Are you ready to face them? With these realizations weighing heavily upon you, picture this: the serene calm of early dawn in a sprawling metropolis. Towers of steel and glass, silent sentinels to the night past, now awaken with the glow of the sunrise. And alongside the brilliance of a new day lurks a chilling awareness of how the quest for approval weaves itself silently through the tapestry of our existence. You pause, standing at the precipice of understanding, embracing the full scope of this pursuit. How deeply does it sway the intricate dance of human interaction, the silent exchanges of validation that have molded not just individuals but entire societies? Consider the personal prison many choose unwittingly, the chains of expectations. Approval-seeking warps authenticity into performative existence. Like an actor lost in their role, we risk blurring the lines between self and mask, leaving behind echoes of authenticity. Cognitive dissonance arises as we find ourselves compelled to act in contradiction to our true desires, a psychological tension that grows with each step away from genuine self-expression. In a world conditioned by approval, indifference becomes an act of defiance, authenticity a rarity. Without realizing it, countless lives slip into the grip of social comparison. People become silhouettes on a stage of delusion, performing identities curated for the approval and judgment of an unseen audience. Like a never-ending game of shadow play, individuality fades and innovation is stifled. Entire cultures have built narratives around this relentless cycle. The history of consumerism, for instance, can be traced back to a deep-seated hunger for status, a quest for approval in the eyes of those we may never even meet. Advertisements promise transcendence through possessions, whispering the lie that value comes not from within but from without. In pursuing material prestige, we forsake lasting fulfillment, caught in the endless churn of desire and acquisition, peddling dreams in exchange for moments of fleeting validation. Turning an eye to social systems, approval manifests in even more insidious ways. It subtly dictates hierarchies and roles, defining success through conformity rather than originality. It prostitutes meritocracy into a shallow imitation of its ideal, jobs acquired, advancements made, or brilliance recognized not on competence alone, but on the echo of approval resounding from those with power. Neuroscience maps this phenomenon starkly. Neural imaging studies indicate that the reward centers in the brain light up with perceived social acceptance, similar to the highs induced by addictive substances. The circuitry of approval, then, is woven into our neural fabric, making us susceptible to its addictive allure, a feedback loop that constantly draws us back to the mirage of self-worth defined by others' esteem. But what becomes of the solitude in this web of interdependence? Isolation blossoms when approval-seeking obscures authenticity, preventing real human connection. Relationships become a barter of self-serving interests, reducing intimacy to transactions of mutual validation. The yearning for true connection is drowned in a sea where each person plays a role they believe will garner approval, never daring to reveal the vulnerabilities of their true self. The ecosystem of our mental and emotional lives becomes delicate, our reliance on approval fostering anxiety, depression, and a chronic dissatisfaction born from the pressure of unseen expectations. The quest for approval transforms from a mere desire to an existential threat, shaping identities that are forever incomplete without the affirming gaze of another. This psychological tyranny extends to the social consciousness, echoing through the corridors of media and public discourse. We see it in the algorithms that dictate digital experiences, rewarding conformity while marginalizing dissent and nuance. The homogenization of thought poses a threat not just to individuals but to the dynamism of societal progress as well. Innovation is, after all, born in the crucible of diversity and friction, not in the uniformity of approval. As you advance through these thoughts, the dichotomy upon which society rests becomes clear. The need for community and collective affirmation faces the necessity for individual authenticity and purpose. To navigate this tightrope requires courage, a rebellion against the pervasive pressures that fixate our focus outward, leaving the discovery of self adrift. The murmur of the city, now awake, beckons with unresolved questions. Can we escape this era of approval? How can the human condition transcend a cycle so deeply rooted in our instincts and social constructs? There's a building crescendo of tension in this existential theater of approval. To break free demands a dramatic act, a seismic shift in understanding what it means to be uniquely, unequivocally oneself. You stand on the brink, readying yourself for what must come next. The rebellion against this ubiquitous force must start with a vision of liberation unlike any before. Dare to see the unseen, challenge what it means to belong, To defy this cycle requires a journey where the mind is both prisoner and liberator. As you contemplate this revolution, resolved to break free from the bonds of collective confinement, a new dawn approaches, a siren call toward bravery in self-definition. The next steps lie in rebellion and revelation, the shedding of constraints into a realm where approval loses its tyrannical power over personal destiny. Are you ready to proceed, to unravel the matrix of approval and reconstruct identity on your own terms? As the morning sun reaches its zenith, bathing the city in a golden hue, you stand amidst its pulse, determined and resolute. The air is charged with anticipation, the quiet certainty of revolt bubbling just beneath the surface of consciousness. This is more than a personal transformation, it's an awakening, an evolution beyond the confines of perceived limitations. You are entering a new realm where the chains of public approbation begin to fracture and fall away, and beneath them lies the turbulent, liberating storm of self-realization. Imagine now standing at a great crossroads, each path diverging into infinite possibilities. Each avenue symbolizes a different facet of selfhood yet explored, illuminated by luminaries who defied the gravitational pull of approval, choosing instead to carve their destinies in the face of uncertainty. How does one wade against the tide of collective opinion and find one's anchor in the turbulent seas of individuality? Start with the concept of introspective sovereignty, a term coined for this inner rebellion. Turn inward to assess not simply the narrative endowed by others, but the raw, unedited script of your personal ethos. The silence of introspection cuts through the noise, granting clarity and a compass directed by personal values rather than societal pressures. It is Henry David Thoreau at Walden Pond, eschewing the ordinary to discover the extraordinary within the simplicity of nature, his true self. Next, consider the radical strength found in embracing inauthentic imperfection. To dwell in the realm of approval is to elevate the illusion of flawlessness, a chronicle predicated on impossibilities. Embrace vulnerability as a compass toward authenticity. Echo the courage of existential punk rockers like Jean-Paul Sartre or rebellious visionaries like Frida Kahlo, who exposed the raw viscera of their humanity in artistic defiance of established norms. Reconfigure failure not as a crux of shame, but as the anvil upon which resilience and authenticity are reforged. Seek out the symbiotic relationship between us and detachment and personal freedom. Detachment isn't an emotional abandonment, but rather a mindful disengagement from the approval-seeking loop. It's the Buddhist middle path, where one finds serenity not in the relinquishment of connection, but in the recognition of impermanent selves. Breathe through the desire for validation, employing conscious awareness to reclaim the energy ensnared by reactive impulses. In every inhale lies potential, and in every exhale, release the grip of expectation. Such territory requires fortitude, and the sentinel of this path is the cultivation of intrinsic fulfillment. Start by redefining success on your terms and, like Viktor Frankl's concept of finding meaning, allow purpose to become your lodestar. Achievement becomes a reflection of internal ambition, devoid of external validation, each milestone assessed not by applause but contentment. Find joy in simplicity, power in perseverance, and direction in self-alignment. The third weapon of this rebellion is subversive creativity, a method of redefining approval by flipping expectations into personal expressions. Creativity becomes your act of liberation, a beating drum that stakes your unique place in the vast schema of life. Embody the daring of figures like James Baldwin and Patti Smith, whose provocations and artistry carved new realities from the bedrock of discord. Express freely and accept the silence of criticism as affirmation rather than diminution. And there is yet another path, tent radical empathy and connection. True autonomy isn't isolation but a profound intertwining with others beyond surface-level connectivity. By fostering empathy unbounded by personal gain, the approval-seeking interactions transform into reciprocal relationships governed by shared humanity. The strength contained within empathy obliterates the myopia of selfish pursuits, cultivating a network of authentic bonds where identity breathes freely. As you stride forward, use historical exemplars not as static icons, but as dynamic tapestries from which to draw strength and inspiration. Mahatma Gandhi's nonviolence, a rebellion of purity amidst violence, or Martin Luther King's echoes of change through peace, both demonstrate that real transformation thrives when the inner compass realigns from external validation to resolve. Finally, adopt a future-focused vision. Visualize an identity unmarred by the expectations of others. The journey of self-realization is perpetual, driven by the emergent cycle of growth and examination. There are no endpoint or final applause, only the constant unfolding of understanding and evolution. As your awareness stretches, so too does your capacity for fulfillment beyond the constraints of approval. With these strategies woven into the mantle of your existence, see yourself not as a solitary figure, adrift among anonymous multitudes, but as a beacon illuminating the path for others to follow. Empower others through your transformation, creating ripples within the collective unconscious that inspire others to embark on their pathways of liberation. Facilitate a rebellion not against any institution or individual, but against the internal dialogues dictating limitation and dependency. And now, as the horizon stretches before you, vibrant and endless, feel the shift from the confinement of others' reflections to the vast panorama of your potential. The rebellion against approval is not merely a renunciation of need, but an assertion of abundant inner worth. These streets, once thrumming with external demands and expectations, now echo with the power of your own footsteps alongside others who have dared to forge this path. Your revolution is born, the alignment of purpose and authenticity a radiant birthright. Are you ready to rise from the shadows into the dazzling symphony of your truth, unfettered and newly forged by the fires of singular vision? Step forward, for the ultimate truth awaits, shimmering with the promise of liberating revelation. Section 5. The Ultimate Truth, the Final, Most Powerful Realization. 800 to 1,000 words stand now on the precipice of realization as the day stretches into its full, warm embrace. The metropolis around you unfolds like an origami universe, each fold revealing layers you had not dared imagine possible. The symphony of life swells, an eternal crescendo toward understanding. And here, amidst the pulse of existence, the ultimate truth whispers through the rustling leaves and bustling streets. The quest for approval masks an even deeper, universal longing for meaning. Imagine yourself as an ancient traveler, having wandered the road through time and consciousness, arriving at a revelation so hauntingly simple it borders on the sacred. At the heart of the approval-seeking drive is a fear not merely of rejection but of existential nullity, the fear that one's life might pass unnoticed, unheralded, that it might, in essence, mean nothing. But now comes the profound unraveling of this illusion. Understand this: meaning is not woven from others' endorsements but from the profound tapestry of your choices and experiences, each thread a testament to the essence only you can bring to the world. The Greek mythos once celebrated heroes who defied destiny not by triumphing in the eyes of others, but by their unwavering adherence to personal conviction amidst unyielding odds. Here lies the secret to transcending approval, realizing it is not a barometer for value, but a fleeting shadow on the journey toward greater purpose. Let's venture deeper still into the reflections of those who have pierced the veil of existential questioning. Viktor Frankl, drawing from the harrowing depths of suffering, concluded that life holds potential meaning under any circumstance. It is the courage to chart your meaning, even in the silence between heartbeats, even when approval is a whisper in the void, that offers liberation. Consider further the notion that the universe itself, vast and unknowable, does not assign worth based on external validation. Stars burn brightly for millennia, indifferent to whether they are seen or celebrated. Likewise, humanity is a constellation, each life a brilliant flash with intrinsic luminosity, no less vital when unobserved. To forge meaning within this cosmic dance, one must adopt the vantage of the universe, find solace not in the gaze of others, but in the unfathomable depth of the self. In this ultimate realization, you grasp the kaleidoscope of identity, fragmented not by inadequacy but by choice and self-realization, an identity reshaped by every action, every thought, every inkling of authentic emotion, freely experienced and expressed. The approval-seeking folly dissolves into the ether as you recognize your worth is immutable, defined solely by the meaning you imbue into the fleeting hours of your existence. What is the profound oppressor reveals itself as the potential liberator and legacy. Legacy is not a series of accolades or acknowledgments, but an accumulation of individual impacts made in ways that resonate beyond the immediate. It is not about being remembered by many, but being remembered wholly and truly by yourself. As you stand now, you aren't just a seeker of approval, but the architect of a life that will echo through eternity with the quiet assurance of authenticity. The people who have truly transformed the human narrative, the Gandhis, the Mandalas, the untold countless who dared to breathe life into their convictions, were driven by an inner compass tuned not merely to the calling of approval, but to the deeper call of purpose and contribution. Herein lies the most human of legacies, and so, as you draw your exploration to a momentary pause, understand that the quest for meaning reveals itself as the ultimate form of approval, the approval of a life's work deemed worthy by the self, an undertaking not measured by the applauding crowd, but by the silent nod of one's own spirit. As Michel Foucault expressed, the art of living itself is the canvas upon which we paint our true selves, not for the gallery of others, but as a perpetual exhibit of authenticity. In the final mosaic of this understanding, the city around you, with its countless stories entwined, becomes a partner in your revelation. You see reflections in every pane of glass, whispering not of validation but of connection, urging you to step forward with courage and creativity. This is your moment to reframe the narrative. You are not a seeker of approval, but a seeker of truth. With every step you carry the wisdom of your realization like a lantern, illuminating the shadows of doubt and uncertainty with the light of meaning. The journey is yours, a journey deeper into the heart of what it means to be, to love, to seek, to challenge, and to transcend. The greatest approval lies not in accolades or applause, but in the quiet, resonant echo of a life truly lived. Now, what will you do with this truth? With the sun rising on this newfound understanding, will you dare to redefine your path, crafting it from the vibrant threads of intrinsic meaning and boundless potential? The horizon awaits, and beyond it, an infinite possibility, untouched by the bounds of approval, guided by the wisdom of self and the courage to be.